And I've always, ever since I was a teenager, I've been a Christian, since I was 12 years old, but when I was in high school, I loved ministries that reached out to the people on Skid Row, the alcoholics, drug addicts, the homeless. I've always had a very warm spot in my heart for ministries that do that. Yeah. And some of the missions that I preached in when I was a teenager, I used to go out with one group and we preached down on Skid Row. And back then, when I wasn't even out of high school yet, and I had such a burning desire and a call to preach, the only place I could find that would let me preach were these street meetings down on Skid Row. And I'd go down and preach to the bums and the winos. But in the one mission where I preached, they had to sit through the sermon in order to get fed. Some mission works do that and some don't. Now with this Ecclesia ministry, the thing that's so wonderful about it is, they have the church service offered there. Right. And then of course I don't know if you're going to end up giving them refreshments eventually too, but then you can just stand right down the street to the potluck in the park.
That's right. Yeah. So these things are all going to develop. Right now, what we want to do is say we can provide a worship service. Mm-hmm. That's what we can do right now. Mm-hmm. And we can have an inspirational, uplifting experience together and give us that sort of food for the spirits, food for the soul. And like you say, then on Sunday, you can go down to potluck in the park and have lunch. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to think about that as the coffee hour after church, you head down to potluck in the park. Maybe where this will go is to grow bigger. Maybe the vision for this is to be more like Boston and Ecclesia Ministries, to reach out and begin to say, what are we doing to feed folks? Mm-hmm. What are we doing to house folks? Yeah. What are we doing to clothe folks? I think it's a wonderful little piece of trivia that Transition Projects, you mentioned,
yes,
that provides food, which is not a worship service and does not have that component.
No, we go in, we prepare a meal at the church, and when we go down there and we serve them food, and they're so pretty. They have both the men and the women's facilities.
That's right. Jean's place is the other.
The women's facility isn't as big, so we drop food off to them, and when we go down there, it's men, and they're so appreciative of it. And I don't know, when we get ready to leave, the people that run that, I always have them clap, and they consider me kind of like the celebrity attraction there, is what I've been told.
Well, it began as the Burnside Project, and it began by a group of ministers.
Right.
It was begun as a project of ministers, to have a ministry. So who knows where Ecclesia will go?
Well,
who knows where Communion in the Park will take us?
The thing that's so exciting about it, going back 10 years, this lady, Debbie Wilson?
Debbie Little.
Debbie Little.
In Boston.
She started that by herself. She had a burden. She felt that God had called her to a ministry to the homeless people. She wasn't sanctioned or backed by any particular church, although she was a member of the Episcopal Church. But rather than sitting around and waiting to be asked to do something, in church, interjecting this, in church life over the years, there's nothing that is more of a pet peeve to me, but people say, I'm never asked to do anything. You go to a church and you offer to do something. I've never been asked. I don't wait to be asked.
You don't wait to be asked.
I just step in and I look in the church and the various committees and things and find a place where I fit in, and then I do it. But this woman didn't wait to be asked to do anything, didn't wait for the church's sanction, but she started making sandwiches by herself, obeying God's leading, making sandwiches and giving them out to the homeless people. And as a result of her being obedient to that one call from God to just go out and make sandwiches and give them to the people, one thing led to another, and now it is a huge international ministry in Boston, like you say, that has all kinds of outreaches, and now it's reached Portland, Oregon, and I am so honored that you've asked me to be a part of this, because this is the kind of ministry that I like. I'm not a pastor, I'm an evangelist. This is what I do. And both Ken, he's a lay person from the Episcopal Church, and then and the thing that I love about this is going to involve both lay people and clergy. And then I sent the copy of the email to Dr. Wheeler of First Baptist here, they were delighted. They said, he said, I was just walking by, the wonder why I didn't include him. And of course you said to me, you're getting other people involved. Well, that's what I do.
That's what you do. That's the evangelism. That's the evangelist in you.
Right. And of course I love to preach.
You do.
And I've also worked as an entertainer, but I did not know until this interview that you were that strong of a fan of my preaching. I'm very honored. And apparently the other people that you had mentioned about me being in it were all for it. They knew who I was, you know.
We in Portland, I think we all know Sister Paula.
Yeah,
So it went without saying. In fact, I was at a meeting the other day, yesterday. I was at a meeting completely unrelated, and I happened to mention that we were doing this, and I mentioned Sister Paula, and this woman that didn't know me from, except we were at this meeting together, said, "Oh, the Sister Paula show. I've tuned into that one." So it was wonderful. So I think you bring a great gift to our city, and you bring a great gift to our community, and you will bring a great gift now to Communion in the Park.